pulley system out of the bay and right into a kitchen. Those ingredients can't compare to the sit-around-the-food locker stuff from a nameless, faceless mainline supplier. God knows how long those edibles spend in the depths of some industrial freezer, how far they've traveled to get to your plate, and how they've been handled along the way. With the exception of a few ingredients, wine and cheese come to mind. The idea that freshness counts is as old as the hills. Traveling in its purest form allows you to gain unbridled access to foods at their source. Growing up in New York City, we rarely ate food at its freshest. You don't find shrimp in the Hudson River. There was lobster once, but 125 years ago they were overfished out of the tidal estuaries in and around the island of Manhattan. Every summer, my dad would drive me out to Montauk, Long Island. We'd sit at the dock watching fishing boats unload crates of fresh seafood right out of the Atlantic. Like the paparazzi hot on some young starlet's trail, we would hound these crates to the clam bars on Montauk's docks just to eat the freshest catch. There was one big tourist restaurant on the docks of Montauk called Gossman's. They had pretty fresh stuff, but their lobster was kept alive by holding them in aerated ocean water tanks, standard ops then and now for larger commercial seafood restaurants. Minute by minute, day by day, the meat would break down. The lobsters became less flavorful, less briny, less saline, less intense the longer they sat in tanks. Time is the enemy of food, even when the food is still alive. We skipped places like Gossman's whenever we could in favor of smaller local clam bars. In those days, Salivar's was the working-class seafood shack we ate in, a small joint open at 5 a.m. to serve donuts and egg sandwiches to the commercial fishing crowd and dock crews. It sat about 500 yards down the road, but it was a world away in terms of culture. Real people ate, argued, and hung out at joints like Salivar's, Lunch, the lobster roll, and the Quiet Clam. This was the 60s, before the jet-set crowd had yet to discover the Hamptons, and these were the unspoiled clam shacks we spent our time eating in. Now in his 80s, my father is still as tenacious a traveler as anyone. About 5 years ago, he moved to Portland, Maine. If you hold the state of Maine under a magnifying glass, you'll see its coastline looks like 1,000 little fingers pointing into the Atlantic Ocean. In some areas, these peninsulas are protected from the brunt of the Atlantic storms by islands, creating quiet waters perfect for fishing and lobstering. I don't care how many times you've dined at fancy seafood restaurants in Chicago or New York, until you've had lobster fresh from the cold waters of Maine, you really haven't had live lobster. The very first time I visited Dad in Portland, he insisted we drive up to the Five Islands Lobster Company for what he felt was the best lobster roll in the state. Five Islands is a third-generation family-owned lobster company. Their food shack is like Red's in Wiscasset or Days in Portland, one of those under-the-radar joints whose address is passed among foodies like heroin junkies trade reliable connections. I am probably performing an act of culinary self-mutilation by revealing my most precious source, but here it goes. Five Islands is one of those rare food finds, if you can find it at all. You drive about 45 minutes north of Portland on I-295, make a right, and head east on US 1. You begin to head east, down County Road 127, onto the paved road, turn left onto a dirt road, and you'll drive right up to the 80-year-old barn-like wooden structures where you can park and get some fresh air. Just look for the signs saying Five Islands Lobster Company. You can't miss it. The family still goes out every day in lobsters. That's their main business. You can sit and watch their boats coming in with crates and crates of lobsters, some headed off to the world's finest restaurants and fish shops. However, the family keeps the best stuff for themselves. Steamer clams, haddock, hake, clams on the half-shell, local shrimp, oysters, or their famous lobsters. It's fresh, delicious, and they're cooking it on the spot. Enter the wooden swinging door and you'll notice the requisite mugs, t-shirts, and bumper stickers for sale at the counter. Crayon and marker-drawn cardboard menus line the walls of this crazy little room that houses a cooler you fetch your root beer from and the counter where you order. Somehow, they've managed to squeeze a kitchen into the back of this teeny space. Everyone orders the same things: Maine lobster rolls or deep-fried clams, or in my case, both. These items pair perfectly with their made-from-scratch dill and lemon tartar sauce, homemade coleslaw, and hand-cut French fries. The thing that sets Five Islands apart from the rest of the clam shacks I love is not just that the lobster marches straight